Selections from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. The First Steps to Bhakti. Section 2. The world presents to us manifold stages of love. We have first to clear the ground. Upon our view of life, the whole theory of love will rest. To think that this world is the aim and end of life is brutal and degenerating. Any man who starts in life with that idea degenerates himself. He will never rise higher. He will never catch this glimpse from behind. He will always be a slave to the senses. He will struggle for the dollar that will get him a few cakes to eat. Better die than live that life. Slaves of this world, slaves of the senses, let us rouse ourselves. There is something higher than the sense life. Do you think that man, the infinite spirit, was born to be a slave to his eyes, his nose, and his ears? There is an infinite, omniscient spirit behind that can do everything, break every bond, and that spirit we are, and we get that power through love. This is the ideal we must remember. We cannot, of course, get it in a day. We may fancy that we have it, but it is a fancy after all. It is a long, long way off. We must take man where he stands and help him upwards. Man stands in materialism. You and I are materialist. Our talking about God and Spirit is good, but it is simply the vogue of in our society to talk thus. We have learnt it parrot like and repeat it. So we have to take ourselves where we are as materialists and must take the help of matter and go on slowly until we become real spiritualists and feel ourselves spirits, understand the spirit and find that this world which we call the infinite is but a gross external form of that world which is behind. But something besides that is necessary. You read in the Sermon on the Mount, ask and it shall be given. You seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. The difficulty is who seeks, who wants. We all say we know God. One man writes a book to disprove God, another to prove him. One man thinks it is duty to prove him all his life, another to disprove him. And he goes about to teach man there is no God. What is the use of writing a book either to prove or disprove God? What does it matter to most people whether there is a God or not? The majority of men work just like a machine, with no thought of God and feeling no need of Him. Then one day comes death and says, "Come." The man says, "Wait a little. I want a little more time. I want to see my son grow a little bigger." But death says, "Come at once." So it goes on. So goes poor John. What shall we say to poor John? We never found anything in which God was the highest. Perhaps he was a pig in the past and he is much better as a man. But there are some who get a little awakening. Some misery comes, someone whom we love most dies, that upon which we had bent our whole soul, that for which we had cheated the whole world, and perhaps our own brother that vanishes and a blow comes to us. Perhaps a voice comes in our soul and asks, "What after this?" Sometimes death comes without a blow, but such cases are few. Most of us, when anything slips through our fingers, say, "What next?" How we cling to the senses. You have heard of a drowning man clutching at a straw. A man will clutch at a straw first, and when it fails, he will say someone must help him. Still, people must, as the English phrase goes, sow their wild oats before they can rise to higher things. Bhakti is a religion. Religion is not for the many. That is impossible. A sort of knee drill, standing up and sitting down, may be suited for the many, but religion is for the few. There are in every country only a few hundreds who can be and will be religious. The others cannot be religious because they will not be awakened and they do not want to be. The chief thing is to want God. We want everything except God because our ordinary wants are supplied by the external world. It is only when our necessities have gone beyond the external world that we want a supply from the internal, from God. So long as our needs are confined with the narrow limits of this physical universe, we cannot have any need for God. It is only when we have become satiated with everything here that we look beyond for a supply. It is only when the need is there that the demand will come. Have done with this child's play of the world as soon as you can, and then you will feel the necessity of something beyond the world, and the first step in religion will come. There is a form of religion which is fashionable. My friend has much furniture in her parlor. It is the fashion to have a Japanese vase. So she must have one, even if it cost $1,000. In the same way, she will have a little religion and join a church. Bhakti is not for such. That is not want. Want is that without which we cannot live. We want breath, we want food, we want clothes. Without them, we cannot live. When a man loves a woman in this world, there are times when he feels that without her we cannot live. Although that is a mistake. When a husband dies, the wife thinks she cannot live without him, but she lives all the same. This is the secret of necessity. It is that without which he cannot live. Either it must come to us or we die. When the time comes that we feel the same about God, or in other words, we want something beyond this world, something above all material forces, then we may become bhaktas. What are our little lives when for a moment the cloud passes away and we get one glimpse from beyond? And for that moment, all these lower desires seem like a drop in the ocean. Then the soul grows and feels the want of God and must have Him. The first step is, what do we want? Let us ask ourselves this question every day. Do we want God? You may read all the books in the universe, but this love is not to be had by the power of speech, not by the highest intellect, not by the study of various sciences. He who desires God will get love. Unto him God gives himself. Love is always mutual, reflective. You may hate me, and if I want to love you, you repulse me. But if I persist, in a month or a year, you are bound to love me. It is a well known psychological phenomenon. As the loving wife thinks of her departed husband, and with the same love we must desire the Lord, and then we will find God, and all books and the various sciences would not be able to teach us anything. By reading books, we become parrots. No one becomes learned by reading books. If a man reads but one word of love, he indeed becomes learned. So we want first to get that desire. Let us ask ourselves each day, do we want God? When we begin to talk religion, and especially when we take a high position and begin to teach others, we must ask ourselves the same question. I find many times that I don't want God. I want bread more. I may go mad if I don't get a piece of bread. Many ladies will go mad if they don't get a diamond pin, but they do not have the same desire for God. They do not know the only reality that is in the universe. There is a proverb in our language. If I want to be a hunter, I will hunt the rhinoceros. If I want to be a robber, I will rob the king's treasury. What is the use of robbing beggars or hunting ants? So, if you want to love, love God. Who cares for these things of the world? This world is utterly false. All the great teachers of the world found that out. There is no way out of it but through God. He is the goal of our life. All ideas that the world is the goal of life are pernicious. This world and this body have their own value, a secondary value, as a means to an end. But the world should not be the end. Unfortunately, too often we make the world the end and God the means. We find people going to church and saying, God, give me such and such. God, heal my disease. They want nice, healthy bodies, and because they hear that someone will do this work for them, they go and pray to him. It is better to be an atheist than to have such an idea of religion. As I have told you, this bhakti is the highest ideal. I don't know whether we shall reach it or not in millions of years to come. But we must make it our highest ideal, make our senses aim at the highest. If we cannot get to the end, we shall at least come nearer to it. We have slowly to work through the world and the senses to reach God.